Welcome back to the Gotham Sports Machine. I'm your host, Jack Healey. This is your host, Mark Healey, and we are very excited to announce a very special episode because the Knicks have advanced to their first final since 1999. Definitely a big day, great day to be a New York fan. Still some work to do, but definitely got to celebrate it.
No, no question. And I have to give Jack credit here. I have to give you credit, buddy. You have been on top of this team since the beginning of the postseason. Your takes and your predictions have been really spot on. And where I saw, you know, uh, pitfalls or potential potential for disaster, you've been pretty consistent on how good how good this Knicks team is, and how good you thought they were. And you looked at this matchup against Cleveland, where I was like Knicks in six, maybe Knicks in seven. I think maybe I said Knicks in seven. You were like, nah, I think Knicks in five, or you even said that it could be a sweep. So congrats to you for being pretty spot on about this team since the very beginning.
I mean, this team was good enough to win last year, but had some difficult times, some tough clutch moments. We bounced back. We added talent to the bench, fired Tibbs, which was controversial, but I mean, Mike Brown is taking his team to a different level. As much as I was a Tibbs believer and I didn't love that you fired your coach after making the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, you threw Mike Brown with this insane like ultimatum almost, finals or bust. How many coaches in NBA history, sports history, get thrown finals or bust, championship or bust, and actually come through and actually take you to that finals and take you to that championship? And not only did he do it, he did it in New York, which is even harder.
Right.
So kudos to Mike Brown, very impressive. And you hit a little bump in the beginning of the playoffs, but never seemed to bother him. Never seemed to really bother the team. I mean, they locked right back in. And not only did they like get back to business, they started one of the most dominant postseason runs we've ever seen. Their point differential is like the highest in postseason history right now for that win streak. So for me to be like, oh, I'm right about this team, like I didn't think they were going to be this dominant. I knew that they were going to be one of the best teams in the East, and they were probably the most complete team in the East. But did I think that they were just going to like go out and mop the floor with the Sixers and the Cavs? Like that's truly impressive to me how connected this team has gotten. And it's like the chemistry has seemed to like overtake everything. It's like everything is just clicking. Everyone's working in tandem. The defense is swarming. Nobody can get anything going. Like the Cavs had the first game, like their first three quarters, they looked like, oh wow, maybe this team is dangerous. And
Right.
in the fourth quarter, it's like the Knicks were just like, yeah, let's clamp down. Let's end this nonsense. Come back from 22 points down. Brunson puts the city on his shoulders. Since then, good night, Cleveland. I mean, that's brutal. That was brutal to watch at times. It was just Harden on an island trying to guard Brunson. And then at the end of the day, that's on the Cavs, that's on the coaching, that's on the team. You cannot let him continuously keep switching on to Brunson. Guy's like 35, 36 years old. He can't guard him. That should be Donovan Mitchell's job. That should be another guard's job. And they just let it keep happening over and over again, especially in the big moments. I'm not complaining. But I mean, that was a really bad job. And people, oh, cakewalk. This is such a cakewalk. Oh, such an easy run. Nobody was saying that going to every series. Going into all of these series, all your analysts, all your top guys were picking the other teams. Like there were people picking the Knicks, but nobody in any of these series decisively said, "Oh, the Knicks are taking this. The Knicks are this
Right.
is an easy series. This is
And
a." but now it is because the Knicks made it look easy. It's
Well, that's the
ridiculous.
thing. You can't go into it like people were picking the Sixers to go to the finals. People were picking, before the Eastern Conference, playoffs even started. You know, yeah, I mean, I guess most people picked the Knicks going into the Hawks
Oh
series,
yeah,
you know, but nobody was talking about the Knicks. Oh, the Knicks will be in the finals. Very few people said the Knicks will be in the finals because it's going to be easy for them to get through
yeah.
no
Nobody
matter who
said
they
that.
play. Nobody was
Nobody
saying
said.
right,
Everybody
exactly.
was,
So you
oh,
can't then
Boston, Boston.
right, and you can't go back and then say, well, it's been easy. No, because then, as you said, the Knicks made it easy. The Knicks were the team that took, you know, it, to somehow say that the Knicks don't deserve to be there. That's what people are basically trying to do. They're trying to devalue what the Knicks have done to this point, and that's just being a hater. I'm sorry if you can't look at what the Knicks have done and give them, to use one of your generation's terms, if you can't give the Knicks their flowers for getting to the finals and saying they earned it by beating everyone into submission, and your take is, well, it was easy. You're either a delusional Nets fan that just hates this, or you're just a guy that doesn't like New York and doesn't want to see, doesn't want to see New York succeed, or even worse, you're just very bad at evaluating talent, and you really shouldn't be paid money to be on a show or a podcast and make those picks and then say that the Knicks road was easy. Because unless you said that before the playoffs started, you can't say it now, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there were things that happened that did make it easier for the Knicks, no question. Like they didn't have the toughest road. Like they didn't have to play the one or the two seed. But the one or the two seed clearly wasn't that good. The one or the two seed could barely get out of the first round. And they're like, oh, they didn't have to play the Magic. Like the Magic were this, like they were an eight seed for a reason. The Knicks would have swept the Magic. The Magic were exactly what the Pistons didn't want to see. They were a very similar team to the Pistons. They beat them up when they were already beat up and Cade was beat up. And after that, they were not a threat. After that, they could barely beat Cleveland. Cade was on one leg, and that caused a whole another war between them and Cleveland. And Boston, they got destroyed by Philly. Philly made them look like they didn't even belong to be the two seed. They made them look like what I was talking about them being all year.
Right.
Fraudulent team that they were with a bunch of bozos running the show. But to be like, oh, Philly, like it's like 1 second everybody loves Philly because they beat Boston, and then the next second, oh, Philly's this garbage trash team. Like there was no difference between the first series and the second, other than the fact that Embiid was a little more beat up, but he still played every game, and he missed a game or two. Mitch Robinson missed a game or two. So it's like the Knicks still like they didn't have that advantage down low. They're still a cat, but I mean, the Knicks had to deal with as much adversity as anybody over the past 3, 4 years. For them to finally get a break here and there, and for everybody like, to just piss it away, like
Hey, look, I'm not
bad job.
surprised. I'm not
I'm
surprised.
not surprised either. I'm not
It
surprised
happens all
either.
the time. It happens all the time, and it's just, you know what it is. So much of it is, again, like I said, revisionist history. You have to look. I might be wrong a lot. You might be wrong. But like we'll own it. We'll be like, look, we were wrong. And as far as like the Knicks, I mean, did I think that the Knicks were shoo-in or that things were going to be? I'm a fan. You're a fan. We didn't think the road was going to be easy. Did we enjoy the fact that their opponents were playing 6 or 7 game series? Yeah, that was great because the Knicks were able to take care of business and then wait. But the flip side of that, as I said on this podcast, I was worried about the layoff because it was like one of those situations where we've seen teams in other sports, they have that layoff, and then, it takes them a while to kind of get back into the swing of things. And for 3.5 quarters, that's what happened in game one of this series. The Knicks were losing. They were losing by 20 plus points to the point where people were tweeting before the game was over with like 3 minutes left. People are posting on Twitter, oh, don't worry, Knick fan. David Portnoy, our buddy there, Mr. Pizza Boy. He was like, oh, don't worry, Knick fans, keep your head up. Meanwhile, dude, the game's not over, and then the Knicks explode and win that game one. The Cavs never ever, recovered from that, and just like the Knicks didn't recover from what had happened to them last year with Indiana. But here's the difference. The difference is that when Indiana did it, oh, it was this amazing thing. Look how amazing they are. And with the Knicks, no one was talking about Indiana having an easy run last year to get to the finals. And look, let's be honest. If the Knicks don't win game one, maybe they have a tougher road, maybe they win it in six. But just watching this team fall apart after that game one, and basically just getting their butts handed to them for the rest of the three games. I mean, look, it's not the Knicks' fault that the Cavs have no heart, right?
Yep. Like
Outside of outside of Donovan Mitchell,
this was supposed to be like their toughest matchup.
right?
Just because they didn't show up.
You even said, oh, I would have rather had faced, I didn't
Detroit.
really want to face the Cavs. Didn't you say that?
Yeah, because they looked like the Cavs team that we played. They looked like they were done. They looked like they were out of energy. And
Right,
I mean, they clearly were because Cleveland went in and destroyed them on their home
right,
floor in game seven. But that didn't carry over. I mean, it carried over again for 3.5 quarters, but then energy does really matter in these playoffs. And the fact that the Knicks have been able to conserve theirs by playing great and taking care of business, like that shouldn't be a disadvantage for them. Like that should
no,
not a disadvantage, but shouldn't be
right.
like a down on them.
Of course,
And people are always gonna just give that to them. And even going into this finals, no matter who they play, like you got half of the national media. Oh, they're gonna get swept.
right.
But
Well, the
going
Knicks are not going to be favored, and you know what? I don't know how you feel about it. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with
good.
it. You know, go right ahead. Go right ahead and disrespect us and disrespect, take us lightly, underestimate us. I'm fine with that. You don't care, right?
I mean, I would understand if the Thunder are favored over us, but even then, like both of these teams, like this series is going to six no matter what. And if the Thunder win tonight, like every single game that they've lost, Wembanyama has come back and dropped 30 or 40.
Right,
Like he's not making that easy for them, and it's not going to be easy to close out this series for either team. It's
right,
going to be a war. It's been a war all series. This is the series both teams were preparing for all year. Like when you're a great team, there's like always like a team you have in mind, like, oh, this is the team we're gonna have to beat if we want the ring. And that's been the Spurs and the Thunder have had that. They've been rivals. They've been rivals the past 2, 3 years. Wemby and Chet, they have that rivalry. Just the whole cities, they've had a big rivalry for the past few years. Even going back to the Durant, Duncan, like going back to those days, they had rivalries and they went at it. So it's going to be a great series to watch, especially now that the Knicks are actually in the finals. And it'll be great to see how the media reacts to this, like whether it's the Spurs, like are they really going to favor a Spurs team with like I would say they're around as, but like, outside of Wemby, the Knicks are a much better team than the Spurs. The Thunder definitely match up better on paper and are as deep as the Knicks. I would much rather play the Spurs. The Thunder scare me. The Spurs have 5 or 6 guys that are really, really good. And that in the final series, you're gonna have to worry about those 5, 6 guys. But then outside of that, they're not really that deep, especially shooter wise. They don't have that many guys where I'm like, oh, that guy, he can light us up, hit 4 or 5 threes and change the game. The Thunder have like 8 guys like that. Every time, every game that they play, you have no idea who's just going to start randomly hitting shots. They
Right.
got Al. It could be Alex Caruso. It could be that they got that giant dude Jalen Williams. They got another Jalen Williams, and they've been doing it with their second best player, Jalen Williams, hurt. He's had a bad hamstring injury. He hasn't really been the same all playoffs. Like he's had a game or two where he's looked pretty good, but hamstring injuries are tough, especially when you keep trying to play on it and you keep trying to come back on it. And the Thunder are 31-2 without him. So it's like
Right. Right.
don't really they scare me a lot more. And I think the Thunder would be deservedly favored against the Knicks, but I still think the Knicks could beat them. And I think the Knicks are better than the Spurs, even though that the media would favor them over the Knicks.
Right. And here's the other thing too. The Knicks have trouble getting calls on their own floor against a team like the Cavs. I mean, the refs have been so bad when it comes to OKC. With all the flopping and just the idiocy that goes on watching those games. I mean, they're hard to watch. Even our guy Hartenstein, you know, he's pulling a guy's hair and they call it. The ref is looking right at it. Um, so that worries me a little bit too. That the Knicks can't get calls against normal teams and against these floppers. I mean, I think both of our blood pressures are going to go through the roof. If we wind up playing the Thunder. So yeah, I'm like you. I'd rather play the Spurs too. But again, it's always like be careful what you wish for. You
Yeah, it's
might
pick
just
your
get it.
poison. Like you, oh,
Right.
I want
Yeah.
Wembanyama. Like, not really.
But I feel like they could. I feel like they would do a better job defending him than OKC has so far. That's what I feel like.
Yes and no. I mean, they have just as many bodies to throw at him than we do. And they
I mean,
could
yeah,
and
but
they
we have
get they get away
OG,
with
we have
murder.
we have
They get
Mitch.
away with murder. They throw these little guys on him. They throw like Caruso on him just to slap the crap out of him.
Right.
And then they have Chet rotating. So like they've been guarding him well. It's just been like every other game. Like one game, like the first game, he had like 40 points and they couldn't let him out of the paint. Then the next game, he had like no points in the paint and they win by 30. And then the next game, he's got 35 points and he's like, it's like every great series is a series of adjustments. And I think the Thunder have way more to throw at the Knicks than the Spurs do. I think the Spurs only have so
Yep.
many looks that they can like different looks with Wemby too.
Well, look, I'm
Like,
certainly looking forward to it. I think that, look, the last time the Knicks were in the finals, they had no shot in '99. They had no shot. They were an eighth seed. They were lucky to get where they got. And it was great that they went to the finals, but I didn't, I was under no, I just knew the Knicks were going to lose. I enjoyed the ride. I'm not enjoying the ride this time. They're in the finals. I want them to win, and I expect them to have a really good shot at winning. So that's the difference. When people keep talking like, "Oh, let's party like it's 1999," they lost in the final. They got embarrassed in the finals in 1999. So enough with that. Let's party like it's 1973. Let's party when we beat a Lakers team that was, I mean, I was alive, but I didn't watch it because I was like 4. So, I think it was 5. I don't remember. I don't remember that team. But that was one of those situations where the Knicks, even though they had won and beat this Lakers team before, I'm pretty sure the Lakers were favored that year over the Knicks. So I want a situation where I don't care whether the Knicks are favored or not, and B, I expect them to at least go to a game 7. Let's make this finals the first of many that this team is going to go to and be, and have a shot to win. That's what I'm looking for. Not just, oh, we made it to the finals, yay. Don't touch the money, folks. There's a lot of bandwagon jumpers right now
oh, it's ridiculous.
wearing all their Knicks stuff. Like they rooted for the team when Rory Sparrow was the point guard. You know what I'm saying? So let's take it easy on that too. I don't want to be a gatekeeper, but it's like don't talk to me about the Knicks unless we've been talking since at least the last decade. You know what I'm saying of horrendous basketball.
Yep. Speaking of horrendous,
Oh,
I
good
guess
segue, Jack. Oh, God. Oh.
I guess we have to talk about
No,
the
we do. We have to do it. We
trash
have to
can
do it because
Mets.
Memorial Day is was yesterday, and another brutal, brutal loss for the New York Mets. And I posted this morning a couple of things. Well, yesterday I said, well, it's Memorial Day, and I said I would keep my assessments to myself until Memorial Day. This is embarrassing. It's an absolute embarrassing product. And as I said this morning, I'm guilty. I am guilty of being one of the guys that were like David Stearns is the perfect guy for this job. He's this. We're going to look back on this day and say, you know, this was a great day, one of the greatest days in Mets history. And Jack, you were one of the people. I'll give you 100% credit. You're one of the people that was completely skeptical of this whole revamping of the lineup, revamping of the roster. I I'm guilty of believing that this team could compete in the NL East. I mean, what? I mean, how do you? I mean, does it make you feel better that you were right?
No. Yeah, like I would have loved to have been proved wrong, and this team is like this magical analytic like magical farm. And we could go with Kenny Atkinson to the analytical finals.
Oh,
Oh, but it's like
what
of
did
course
what did Josh Hart say? He said that analytics are the lamppost for a drunk guy to lean
yeah,
on. Oh God. Oh,
like yeah, it'll keep you up, but it won't get you home.
oh, oh. It's horrendous. And now it's affecting like even the good guys, the guys who we thought were going to be good. I mean, Bo Bichette, I mean, he had a couple of home runs here and there, and he was started to play a little bit better, but he's been horrendous. Uh, you know, Nolan McLean now can't pitch. I mean, was that, like, here's the thing. Like, I was very skeptical of McLean and Holmes being in the WBC, pitching for Team USA. Obviously, Holmes's injury, he was pitching great, but he's a vet. He was pitching great before he got hurt. But McLean now, is basically in his last three or four starts, has looked pedestrian, if not terrible. Do you think the WBC played a role in that, or is it just he's just a symptom of the overall problem?
Who else do they have? What else? They have Peralta who can't go more than six. He's basically has all the pressure on him right now. I'm not surprised at all that he's folding. Like they do not have one other starting pitcher that they can actually like rely on and trust.
Makoto Senga, not him.
Oh yeah, the guy wasn't pitched in over a month. Are you kidding
Not
me?
Peterson.
Yeah. Guy who needs an opener?
Not the openers. I mean, it's just look. How do you spend $400 million and the team beat is bad? How do you do it? I mean, I get that Lindor is hurt. I get that Lindor is hurt. I get that Polanco is hurt and Luis Robert is hurt. But those guys were always hurt. Polanco, not Lindor, but Polanco and Robert Jr. These guys were hurt. They were always hurt, and you sign them to be like this slump-proof lineup. And now people are saying, well, the injuries. Give them time. Give them time. What time? You're 10 games under 500 on Memorial Day. You had $400 million to spend. And this is what we have? A guy, Morabito, who probably has no business being in the major leagues. You have Jared Young is on his way back. Are you kidding me? That's what we're supposed to wait for? And who's to say that Lindor, who looked like he was on another planet when the season started, not knowing how many outs there were, being like basically with his head up his butt, and look, and we love Lindor, but he's no magical elixir that he's going to come back and then all of a sudden
No.
it's going to be 2024 again. It's
I mean,
it's
if anyone could give us a spark like that, it would be Lindor, but
right.
he can't pitch. Like that's always been my main concern with this team was that as much as like, oh, they revamped the lineup, like it was supposed to be like the whole offseason was supposed to be about pitching. Pitching, pitching, pitching. We gave up 900 runs to the Dodgers. So you went into 2025 Yeah, used 55 pitchers, an MLB record because so many guys got injured and he just kept bringing up shit cans. So, like, what did you do to get better in 2026? You added Freddie Peralta, who can't go more than 5 innings, and you traded farm for him. You traded a pitching. I don't know how what's his face has been doing, Sproat, but you traded a pitching prospect and you traded one of your top hitting prospects for him, and you might not even re-sign him. Like, why? I don't even like. Do I want to give him a contract right now? Do I want to give this guy $200 million to not go more than 5 innings on a terrible team? No. And the whole thing, like, yeah, they brought in these guys. The guys that they replaced play baseball games. Whether you want to say they were on the downturn of their career, whether you want to say they're making too much money, Nimmo, Alonso, and McNeil. I mean, McNeil has missed some games, but Alonso and Nimmo have played 150 games plus for the past 4 years. These guys are on the field every day, giving it your best. Polanco can't get on the field. Luis Robert can't get on the field. And those were the guys you went and Bichette. Oh yeah, he could play, but do you want him out on the field? He sucks. Simeon. Oh. That guy is terrible. He is what? Not only can he not hit, he can't even field. Oh, Mr. Analytics. Everybody else go analytics, analytics. Look at Marcus Smith Simeon's analytics. He's a negative fielder. He can't run the bases and he can't hit. So what the hell are we paying him $30 million for? To look good in a Mets uniform? Durr.
Well, leadership. It's the leadership,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
leadership
Yeah,
was
so he can
lacking
lead
last
us
year.
to 10 games under 500.
Here's the thing. Look, I'm not one of these fire Stearns, this, and that. Look, he's got to go. He's got to go. You
Yeah, I wasn't.
cannot, if and I said this morning too, Jack. Steve Cohen, the owner, Steve Cohen is a guy who collects art, right? He's a guy that big in the art world. He spends millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of art. So like this is like Steve Cohen buying a priceless piece of art and then discovering 2 months later that it's a fake, that it was a fake. What do you think Steve Cohen would do if he bought a priceless piece of art and it turned out to be a fake? Retribution would be swift. It would be taken care of immediately. Well, this is the same thing. He hired David Stearns to do a better job than Billy Epler, to do a better job than Sandy Alderson, to do a better job than whatever Yahoo else was brought in to fix this team, whether it's Omar Minaya, Steve Phillips, whoever. They stink. And the outlook for the rest of the season is bleak. You got to be the biggest blue and orange glasses wearing fan to think that there's any way that this team can make the playoffs. I mean, I don't know how you can look at this team and think by any stretch of the imagination that this is a playoff team, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I was never on the fire Stearns, fire Stearns.
Right.
Like, you had to see how this team did, and
I've seen
look what we
enough.
got. Yeah, I've seen more than enough. Not only did he gut the fan base and get rid of all of our favorite players, but now we got to watch this team be terrible, and he could get fired in the next year or two, and we're the ones who have to sit here and watch it. We're the ones who are gonna have to deal with he could just go get another job. This will affect him, but like this is just another
I don't care if it
pendulum
does.
swing.
Honestly, you did a terrible job. You did a terrible job. Terrible. And here's the thing. Here's the thing too. I posted this morning, and all this backlash. I said, "There's only one guy that I would trust." Now, look, Steve Cohen might go out and hire somebody else. He might keep David Stearns. He's probably going to keep Stearns. Whatever. He doesn't want to admit that he made a mistake. That's probably more realistic than any other option. But there's only one guy to me that I would trust implicitly by giving this guy the keys to the kingdom, and that's Theo Epstein. And people are telling me, oh, he's got an ownership stake in the Red Sox. You'd have to give him an ownership stake to come. Good. Good. Whatever he wants. 10%, 15%, 20% of the team. Give it to him. This guy ended the Cubs. He ended the Red Sox curses. That's the only guy I would trust. And he's not an old guy. He's a young guy. He is a little bit more. He's not so analytically inclined that he wouldn't hire a real baseball manager. This is a guy that won championships with Terry Francona and Joe Madden. So we know that this is a guy that would trust the manager to at least have some input over what's happening. And both his teams could hit, both his teams could pitch, and that's a guy. I'm telling you, that's a guy. To me, he's the only guy out there that I would trust.
An actual proven championship winner. Why would
Yeah,
the Mets ever do that? Why not hire a guy who's won a bunch of hypothetical championships? Like that's the thing about Stearns. Like everybody was talking about him like he was this, like he had this dynasty in Milwaukee. Like yeah, he drafted good talent. They never won a thing. They never made it to the World Series. They never beat the Dodgers. That was our whole or for the next decade, the Mets are gonna have to beat the Dodgers. That is gonna be if you want to win, you have to beat the Dodgers. So we hired the guy that built teams to lose to the Dodgers.
we can't even beat the Marlins. We're worrying about the Dodgers
Exactly.
and please beat the Dodgers.
That's it.
Give me the Reds.
You blinked, and it went from us competing with the Dodgers to competing with the Nationals and
Well,
Marlins.
I mean, and really, and that's the other thing too. Like, it's people like you fire Carlos Mendoza, it's going to change. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. Look, the Phillies. Did I think that the Phillies were going to be? Look, the Phillies fired Rob Thompson and Don Mattingly took over, and they're playing better. But that organization is not analytically paralyzed.
Yeah,
They got Dave
they have their
Dombrowski.
core together.
They got
They have the
baseball, but I
same.
have baseball guys. There's a baseball guy, Dave Dombrowski. I mean, sure, he uses analytics to a certain extent, but they're not slaves to it the way the Mets are. So when they fired Rob Thompson and brought in Don Manning, they were like, all right, cool, Donnie Baseball, let's just go out and play, and they hit.
And they because they also had the same team and lineup basically from last year.
Right.
So it's like it was easy to bounce back when you have the guys you know that can bounce back. I have no trust, no faith in this team to bounce back
I
because
don't
all I've
even.
seen
I
is
you know
dog shit. All I've
I mean,
seen is a bunch of guys that can hit 100. Nimmo, Alonso, and McNeil are having by no stretch these amazing, great
right.
years that like Mets that leave usually have, and they still would be the three best hitters on our team outside of Soto.
Yeah. I mean, McNeil will be an upgrade. I mean, maybe not defensively over Simeon, but you're not that far off defensively. If you have truly watched Marcus Simeon, even if you're the biggest Marcus Simeon fan, which to me is hilarious because the guy's never played for us. He played for Texas, not like a guy who was in our division that we saw all the time. We know why people like Simeon because a lot of those people wanted to get rid of Nimmo. I had some guy say to me, "Well, yeah, you're guilty of overvaluing Nimmo like he was Willie Mays." That's just stupid. I mean, he's my favorite player. I know he's one of your favorite players too.
You look at career numbers, Nimmo is a better hitter than Simeon was.
Of course he is. Of
And
course
Simeon's
he is.
had better years. Simeon's had MVP caliber years, but the consistency has never been there. He's been a guy to hit 30 home runs and then hit
Right.
10, hitting 200 the next year.
But they'll talk about, the contract and this and the contract that, and 2 years. You know what? The whole point of having a multi-billionaire as your owner is that you make decisions based on baseball, not based on contract years. Why did they pay off, all those other deals to get rid of guys for prospects? Because they had an owner who could take it. $20 million for Brandon Nimmo 5 years from now might not be a great number, but what are guys going to be making 5 years from now? I'd rather have that guy on my team as a part-time DH, somebody who play the outfield once in a while, than a guy Marcus Simeon who's going to be gone. He might not even make it to next year, and then you got to eat that money. What's worse? What's worse? A guy who makes $27 million that you're going to have to pay off the last 2 years of his contract because he's terrible? No one's taking that contract.
There's a reason
It's just
that they sent him.
short-sightedness that drives me crazy.
There's
It's
a reason that he was such an integral part. Like he's a big part of their locker room, the leadership locker room. And they won a World Series with them, and they were just like, "Oh, see ya." There's
right.
a reason because he was
For Nimmo, a guy who our fans was part of a core that never won anything, and that yet they took on his whole contract.
yeah.
What does that tell you? What does it tell you? Anyway, I'm excited about the Knicks.
Yep.
Let's go Knicks, baby!
At least we got something. It's like the Mets
Oh,
sacrificed any chance of being good for the
oh.
Knicks. And honestly, if they can win it all, I'll take it.
The Knicks, the Mets should take a page out of George Steinbrenner's book. And on the day that Bobby Valentine and Lee Mazzilli are inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame, there should be somebody over the PA saying, "And now announcing the manager for the rest of the season, Bobby Valentine." At least I'd watch, and I would love the post games with Bobby V, challenging all the guys in the media because this season's done. What are you going to do with Carlos Mendoza? You're just going to make him say the same stupid things over and over and over again. You're going to name one of these guys interim managers who are going to say the same things over and over again. You got to do something for the fans for the rest of the season. If not make if not make the seats free, give us something, man. Give
At
us
least with
something.
the young kids, like that's it. That's all we have to watch. And like
And not
it
even
doesn't do much
not
for them.
even guys that David Stearns drafted, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's mention that. But anyway, all right, kid. Great job.
Yeah,
Let's
this
go
has been
Knicks.
another great episode of the Gotham Sports Machine. We'll see you next week. Hopefully the Knicks got a little lead in the finals, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Love you, pal.